Full-scale planting is now underway. We are finally past our kind of average last frost date, and all the nights are in the 60s looking forward from here. So we are all in on getting things in the ground. We've got some few annuals to us things going in the ground in this video, a few things that should be perennial in this video, just adding seasonal color. Annuals, the trays will get in over the next week, so the small plants will go in pretty soon, all the seasonal color. But some of the larger pieces are going in this video, and I just thought I'd sand in the space one last time because this is kind of the peak color for the Shasta viburnum and the Rosalinda Indian hawthorn all at the same time. And I think this spot is just kind of, the spot's pretty good. We've got a few of those in the garden now. I wish I could get every angle in the garden like this. We've got maybe 3-4 angles in the garden. I think we're gonna shoot a video this week on just from out of the windows, because one of the things you can get from the Learn to Garden video series from Steph's design series is designing from the inside out, rather than just thinking, what are the neighbors going to think of my house as they drive by it? Think about what does my garden look like when I'm standing in my house? What do I get to enjoy from the windows? And so we may do that video this week, just filming from the windows out, because we've made several different spots where we can sit and edit or look out the windows and see some of this color in a different direction than normally people would design for. So let's bounce around, see some of the things we've put in the ground and maybe a couple other things that are flowering. Before I jump into some of the new things, I'll just show off the Pearls of Perfume Philadelphus. This thing is really starting to open up, and now you can smell it on the air. Some of these, I've talked about, some of these flowers are more fragrant in the evening, more fragrant in the morning. This thing just always fragrant. It's very perfumey. And you know that I'm not necessarily the biggest perfumey person, but I am enamored by this plant because it's so upright and narrow. It blooms out heavily like this, and then it continues to bloom all summer. And again, I'm really drawn to the habit of this plant because it's upright and narrow. And for our garden, you know, to get something that's this floriferous to occupy a tiny space, that's what I need it to do, right? I really don't. Some of these deciduous flowering spring shrubs are big, giant, weepy things that get 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall. And we just don't really have a lot of room for those kinds of things. If we had a garden that scaled to that, we would absolutely be using these things. But this is straight up. It's out of the way. I can even put stuff under it. Had some bulbs come up under it. The red sky pencil too is starting to flush out. So this is second year in the ground. Last year we didn't have a lot of growth on it, so you didn't really see that it was going to put on this show. But anytime it's actively growing, it'll be covered in this reddish, bronzish new growth. Also, I'll point out behind it there are flowers on it, and some of these Japanese hollies will get a little black berry on them later in the season. But that's what the tiny little flowers on these. A lot of these hollies can actually draw in quite a few pollinators, even though they're non-native. I frequently see native pollinators taking advantage of a lot of these flowering hollies. We have a lot of perennial salvia in the garden, but we do add some annual salvias as well. Some of them can be incredibly floriferous over the course of the summer. And this saucy red salvia is just one of my absolute favorites. Typically when we get this one, we'll just have one of them because it'll get some pretty good size on it over the course of the summer, and it just shows up from a mile away. The very first season we started this project in the back garden, we had one of these on the corner back there, and it was just so good. This one got sent to us in full flower, and we've had it in a pot for a couple of weeks trying not to get a frost on it, just in case we were gonna get an additional frost. The flowering has slowed down. I just planted it now. I'm just gonna take about a third off the top of this thing, just off with its head. And 2-3 weeks from now, it'll be back in absolute full flower. If it slows down at any point during the summertime, you do that again, and boom, it'll bloom until we get a frost or hard freeze later in the fall. That for us could be mid-November before that happens. You may have seen us unbox these little lucky Lantana a few weeks ago. Balcom's Nursery sent them to us. They were nice enough to do that. I saw them while I was there, and I wanted to have them in the garden here, and I called them up and said, I should have probably taken those while I was there, and they were nice enough to send them to us. I think you'll see, if you're in North Carolina especially, I know they're growing a lot of them, and they sell a lot of their stuff through Home Depot, so you may be able to find these there. 6, 7 of these little lucky Lantana. I think we have five, maybe 6 of them. This is white. They're kind of small. They have really nice foliage. Again, we've been toting these in and out for a couple times here recently. And then they're large flower clusters, but these are on really compact plants. And so a lot of the Lantana will get 3 feet tall and 4 feet wide during the season. I don't expect this one to get more than a foot tall and about 2 feet wide during the season. It is not hardy here, but it is every bit worth it to get one of these or 2 more of these, because nothing will outbloom it over the course of the summer, and nothing will draw in more pollinators than that. I also put in the little lucky red this morning as well. The red one is red with kind of orange centers, and we're going to be doing a lot of orange flowers out here in the garden, so that will be a big part of the garden you'll see going in over the next couple weeks. The blue-eyed grass really got to blooming very early. First few warm days here, it's in flower. This is kind of a sunken spot in front of the shed, and I think it likes that little bit of moisture. We have another one out front that is definitely less vigorous overall, and kind of got smaller over the last couple of years, because I think it's quite a bit drier out there. So, you know, lesson learned. Some of these, you know, the plants want to be where they want to be. You know, right plant, right place is the key there. The peonies that were transplanted in a video a long time ago are starting to open up. We've got in this area a lot of pinks and kind of lavender, lilac colors on, you know, all together, and it really kind of comes into flower at the same time and looks pretty good together. Some dianthus and autumn lilac, Encore Azalea, and these peonies that are starting to open up. We've 2 things going for us. This is the 3rd year that they were transplanted here, so that's how long it took them to really get well established. Plus, we actually had real winter this winter, so all the peonies in our area, we noticed several places over the last few days that are more vigorous than they normally are in our area, and that's because we actually had some real chill hours to get them to come out and be much fuller and more vigorous, larger leaves, larger flowers, the whole thing. This is Alabama Sunrise Hookerella. This is the 2nd one of these we have in the garden. I really like this plant. It's just always changing seasonally. Of course, it does flower with, you know, kind of minimal flower spikes. We'll probably get those pretty soon on the ones we have in the ground out here. They're pretty early flowering. But this one starts off in the spring with this kind of bright gold and red variegation, you know, the red variegation in the middle of the leaf, you know, with that red vein, I guess I should call it, in the middle of the leaf. And in the summer, it'll become a little more green overall, but then in the fall, it will turn kind of an orange-pink color. Again, it'll have little small white blooms in the spring, but I really like this plant. And we don't have a whole lot of luck with Hookerella and Hookerella and Tiarella in this garden, but this variety has been just really, really tough for us. A couple of Colocasia going into the garden. Both of these are going to be hardy in like zone 8 to 10, 8 to 11. They tend to like fairly moist soil. I've got another one. I've got Waikiki. It's going to go into a container project eventually. But this one's called Pharaohs Mask. It's a fairly new one. May still be a little hard to find this one, but these are done from tissue culture, and tissue culture labs can really bring the world up to speed real quick on material until you tell them to stop. But this one has that really dark. Of course, these leaves are going to get much, much bigger. So this is small compared to what these leaves are going to be. By summertime, they'll be like this, and they have that really dark mid vein in there, and then that really nice green on the outside. The only maintenance really to do on these is cut off the old foliage back to the ground as they, you know, as they look bad. But you'll see, if you're here for the open garden, this thing will be this tall and it'll have leaves this big on it by then. It's sitting under a few overhanging branches from this lower pedalum, but it's about to get cut back really, really hard. So it'll have its own space at that point. I also put in another Hookerella here called Tapestry. Tapestry goes through a lot of color changes as well. It has that kind of purple color in the middle of the leaf. The new growth will have this kind of lime green and purpley red color, and then it'll settle into this kind of green and purpley color with some shades of blue, some blue tones in it as well. And then in the winter time, it'll pick up more of that purple color tends to stand out during the wintertime. And it's got pink flowers. So this one is flowering, so you can see those small pink flowers that you get on these. This is another one though that's been quite reliable for us, and we've just gone through a bunch of these trying to find the right ones. They typically do a little bit better on a slope if you're in an area that gets regular rainfall, so that they're well drained but moist. They don't want to be moist and sitting in the same water as yesterday. They want to be moist and have new water. You know, you'll see a lot of those plants in the mountains like that too. Rhododendrons, which don't like to be in our flat clay soils here in the Piedmont, you go up to the mountains, they're on a slope up there, and there's just water running across the roots sometimes, but it's not yesterday's water, it's today's water, right? And so it's fresh, it's oxygenated. I think that's part of the issue with these, but this one, Tapestry, has been really, really rugged in the garden. This is a Colocasia I really wanted for a while. I was in California last year when I saw this for the first time. This is Redemption, and they were available last year at retail, so I'm expecting this one will be just all over the place this season. Again, I think it says on the website they're already up to zone 7, but I don't think so. Probably just zone 8 and up in the ground. This happens to be kind of a low pocket in the center of this bed. It's where the Viburnum nudum was before we moved it over to the native garden. These are interesting because, oh gosh, there's pollen all over everything. Steph and I do 2 takes on everything right now because one of us will cough or sneeze in the process of describing anything now. But you see the leaf starts off with that center just barely visible, and then in time, that's perfect comparison side by side there. That mid vein gets bigger and bigger and brighter, and then ultimately almost very light shade right down the center of it eventually. So it gets more showy in time. Leaves will get quite a bit bigger in time. This clump will get this big. There's evergreen pittosporum, that green toad lily behind it. Looks great with that variegated Brunera that's down here below it. You see that Brunera is starting to bloom with those little blue flowers on it. But this Colocasia is a real standout. Really, again, I wanted one of these last year. I wanted to bring one back from California when I first saw it. But we did see a few of these at retail last year, and I'm gonna imagine there's a lot of them this year because it's just such a good plant. It is in kind of long shadow shade back here. You know, when the sun goes up over this oak, which it has now above my head, it tends to just be streaked shade in here. So when I tell you long shadows, that's kind of what I'm talking about. You get this in the fall when the sun starts to go in that low angle and leaves are still on the trees. You get those super long shadows from the trees. And this time of year, when the leaves have come out and the sun is getting through there here and there, it has streaked sunlight. And it creates shadows in spaces. So if you use dark foliage, a lot of times they don't show up as well. Okay, that's true of any kind of purple or really dark foliage. You get 15, 20 feet away from it, you don't see it all that well. So do make sure if you're using dark foliage things that you're using greens behind it to make it stand out, or maybe with other variegated things, whatever it is, but it needs something behind it. Otherwise it gets lost in the background. The tree-formed debutante Encore Azalea is coming into flower, and I never know if I'm going to miss this or not when they're in full flower, so I'll go ahead and shoot it now. But it's going to be flower to flower here in a week, and of course it'll do this again in the fall. We've had it in this space for about 4 years, and we hold it at about the same size. I had not checked the stake on it in like 3 years, and it was not happy with the stretch tie that was on it. And I talk about this. This is the kind of stuff I talk about in the weekly garden planner. About reminders of all these things. That's what the weekly garden planner is all about, is these reminders. Apparently I'm going to need to subscribe to the weekly garden planner myself, because there's a couple things out here in the garden I've left the stretch tie on just a little bit too long. So it is good to walk around occasionally anything that's staked in your garden and make sure those stakes and ties aren't doing damage. The other things around this will get some pruning. So what we try to do is have the things come into flower full and lush and just kind of filling up the space and the backgrounds in these videos, obviously. And then as soon as they're done flowering, a little bit of control will be added to them so that they'd come back out and flush back out to the same size at the end of the season and then bloom at this size again. the next year. So you guys will see all that kind of maintenance coming up. But I love this kind of composite with the Chinese snowball viburnum in the back, and the gold foliage weigela and the black foliage weigela, the autumn debutante Encore Azalea, variegated foliage from the Fats hedra, so on and so forth. I think all of these things contrast really well together, but again, some control needs to be added to them after we enjoy them flowering here in the garden. So there's some of the seasonal color we're adding to a garden that already has, you know, quite a bit of seasonal color on the permanent garden, but a few things were added that are a couple of annuals here and a couple of, we hope they're perennials in this video as well. You know, this Colocasia, we definitely want them to come back, and the Hookerellas definitely will be perennial here in the garden. So there you go. What kind of things are starting to get jumping and get flowering? What are you adding to your garden this year that's different? Something you've seen recently, like me with that Redemption Colocasia last year. I was like, I just have to have that thing. It's such a striking plant and such a standout. And it was in the booth for the Southern Living Plant Collection out at in the California Spring Trials last year, and people just made a beeline to it. It's all anybody wanted to talk about was what was that, and me too. And I wanted to bring that one home, but now we have one. So what have you seen recently that you'd love to add to your garden this season? Thanks for watching.